Welcome to a surprisingly scorching Alton Park for the first round of the Mini Challenge.
In the first part of this video, we looked at how the MINI JCW is undeniably a thoroughbred race car that feels most at home when being thrown around the track. What we're out to uncover now is whether the Mini Challenge race series can offer the same amount of action as the Clio Cup it will be replacing in 2020.
I'll let you in on a little secret. The segment that you will have hopefully just watched, it's actually not been shot yet. So today is the very first day I'm driving this car at Alton Park, which is quite a complex circuit, so I'm under no illusion that it's going to be easy.
Don't get me wrong, I love Alton's tight yet fast layout. However, with my last two races here being riddled with mechanical issues, I don't think the love is reciprocal. Still, 2 times don't make it a curse, so I hit the track for Friday practice, determined to trial and error my way through the day and get my head around this tricky car as fast as possible. But then halfway through the morning we were hit with a fuel pump issue. I was running under the Accelerate Motorsport banner, so luckily I had the best engineers and mechanics available. But sadly, that was that for the morning. And at this point, curse really was the only word I could think of.
I guess the story of the day today is just not enough seat time. I know that sounds like a racing driver excuse number 532, but really not having a clean lap out there. There's loads of traffic, not being able to really get acquainted with the car and put a lap in, but I'm trying to keep the frustration in the background, and you know, I guess that's what they call a baptism of fire, right? So
the afternoon didn't start off much better. With the few on-track incidents shortening driving sessions, it was clear that there wasn't going to be much learning on the go. So before hitting the track for the last session of the day, I decided to consult with some more experienced friends to see if I could get some tips, or at least some words of encouragement.
All I can say to you, George, is you're not going to win.
First, thanks for the vote of confidence.
Well, as long as you can get to the end of the meeting within 2 seconds of the front leaders, you're a winner in my mind, because you've braved, in theory, like a mini touring car, proper 6-speed sequential, you've nearly just done a 300 brake horsepower car. It's a beast, and it's a proper animal. So even for you getting in it and being that close to the leaders on lap time, and that you've enjoyed yourself, well done.
Appreciate it, dude. Thank you very much, man.
No worries, buddy. Take care. Good luck.
Up and down the paddock, the consensus was the same. No one parachutes in and nails it. If you're even a couple of seconds off the pace, you're doing well. So with a more defined goal, I took to the track determined to make the most of the little time I had left, trying to get comfortable with the car, learning where I could brake later and where I couldn't. I finally felt like I'd managed to string a few laps together, only to find out I was still way off the pace. This really was the most competitive grid I'd ever been against. Though it all starts to make sense when you find out that Dunlop offered the Mini Challenge champion an actual test in a British touring car as their way of putting something back into the industry and keeping an eye on upcoming talent, which, in an age where drivers pay to race, is one hell of a prize, so of course no one will be pulling any punches. Saturday brought a whole other challenge in the shape of qualifying, a 20-minute dash to try and find some space to set a lap time that would define my starting position on the grid. I picked up where I left off and managed to lap faster, but still not fast enough. Thanks to a couple of mistakes on my fastest lap, I could not place better than P22, 3.7 seconds behind pole setter Dan Zelos. The data showed had I not made those mistakes, a top 10 start could have been on the cards. No use dwelling on it though, as race 1 was looming on the horizon.
Good morning everybody, and welcome to a glorious Alton Park circuit here in Cheshire for this bright and sunny Easter Monday race day. We're about to get racing underway for the first time in 2019 for the Mini Challenge. Always a popular championship this. We've got a big grid of cars, lots of competitive drivers, quite a few new faces making their first steps into the racing world of the Mini Challenge. Well, my name is Andy.
One of the quirks about starting further back at Alton Park is that you can't see the light gantry, so you're left using the cars ahead as you queue to go. And having a grand total of 0 practice starts under my belt, I decided that wheel spinning off the line was a much preferable outcome to stalling the car. The result? I was immediately mugged before even crossing the start line.
get to Old Hall Corner first. It looks like a decent start from Zelos from pole position.
I managed to recover my position into the first corner. However, none of this mattered much, as before the first lap was even over, an incident immediately brought out the safety car for what felt like half of the race. As the safety car eventually dove back into the pits and racing resumed, it was time to go on the offensive. By the way, I think at this point we can skip ahead and tick the healthy dose of carnage box. I soon found myself up to 15th place, having to fend off karting aces Josh Stanton and Tom Rawlings, who were keen to show that the skills you learn on the go-kart track are definitely useful for when you step up to car racing. I fought the good fight, but in the end, 17th was the best I could do. Nothing to write home about, but for my first outing, I was okay with that. At the pointy end of the grid, James Gorno took the win after an intense race-long battle with favourites Nathan Harrison and Dan Zelos.
Jiggy, we've known each other for what, 12 years now? We've met each other for 12 years, yeah, a long time. You've had quite a lot of success since you were British GT champion.
I was,
Am I
yeah.
right in saying that?
That's right, in a Dodge Viper.
In a Dodge Viper. So my question to you is, I've got two questions I guess. What are you doing here and why are you trying to ruin this for me now?
Well, I want to try something competitive and front-wheel drive, because I've not done front-wheel drive before and this just looked perfect. I don't want to race in championships where there aren't many cars or where there are big differences in cars, so this is perfect. Everything's close, the package is wonderful, the cars are great to drive, sometimes a bit tricky, and you're finding out when you first have a go.
Absolutely.
You have to learn the car, but once you get the hang of them, they're awesome fun.
Right, we need to get a cameo with this boy here. So good to see you, man. So my channel, if you don't remember, we actually did a feature with him on the channel last year. Mike was racing in the Ginetta GRDC Championship. If you want to watch it, proper sort of documentary, everything you need to know if you're thinking of starting in the world of motorsports, not just the glamorous bit, but the ups and the downs. So make sure to check it out.
How's it going, man? How's the race?
Not bad. It was.
Race 2 was always going to be the hardest one. I knew some of the front runners involved in Race 1 incidents were starting behind me and would be wanting to come past at all costs. But at least now I had one race start on my CB, so I managed a much better getaway this time. As expected, after 3 laps I found myself under pressure from Race 1 victim Rory Cuff, so I politely hung him out to dry and locked onto the cars in front with intent. Though leaving my wing mirrors unattended proved to be a flawed plan when Rory later fairly and squarely paid me back in spades. I wasn't even mad, this was it, proper touring car racing. From then on, it more or less became a race against myself and the clock. I tried to keep up and learn some things from the more experienced guys, though I can't say that what happened next, I learned from any of them.
So the order is Callum King leading the way. Off, unfortunately, is Jorge Calado down at Knickerbrook, and that car appears to be fairly well beached in the gravel trap. I sense a possible safety car.
I can't remember exactly, but I think one of two things happened. I either realised the front runners were getting way too much airtime and decided it was time to give the Dunlop car some extra exposure, or I let the red mist take hold and totally outbraked myself into one of the fastest corners of the circuit in the pursuit of that elusive lap time. Like I said, I can't quite recall.
He will no longer be a part of this race. The good news is the car appears undamaged relatively, so he won't be greeted by too many grumpy mechanics, but they'll be disappointed that his second race of the weekend ended as it did.
Back at base, the numbers were in. The data show that right before my off-piste excursion, I set my fastest lap, 1.2 seconds off Jack Mabin, who went on to take the W in race 2. There isn't exactly a cup for the guy who lapped 1.2 seconds off, but being that Alton's nearly a 3-mile long circuit and it was my first time ever racing the car, I'll take it.
So I'm here with the BTCC driver Rob Smith. We can call you that as of this year, as of this season. Rob's been very kindly trying to help me make sense of this beast behind us over the weekend. Honestly, how do you think I did?
Honestly, I was impressed. Yeah, so I've been in the team for 5 years before I moved up to touring cars with a different guest driver every weekend, and yeah, you were up there with the best we've had. So
okay,
yeah.
I'll take that. I mean, in that last race, obviously, made a mistake.
It's all just seat time still. You know, you were set back on Friday with the test day being a bit disrupted, and you know, every time you've got in the car, you've gone quicker by a big chunk. So I think probably just pushing a bit too hard in the wrong place, trying to find time in the corner where you were on the pace.
Yeah, I believe trying to find time where there was none to find is the expression. But you know, I'm overall, I had a blast this weekend. Honestly, I such close racing. Like there's bits where you drive it into Druids behind someone, an inch from the car in front, looking through their windscreen. And just, you know, waiting for them to brake so you can brake, and that is just insane.
They are. That's the best thing about this championship overall. The racing is so close.
Well, you know, it really is a team effort. You know, we rely on lots of different people from, of course, my team within the Mini Challenge and Motorsport UK and MSVR, who are our club this year, to get us where we are. But yeah, I think, you know, we have done a lot of work to take the championship up from what was, you know, ultimately a club level championship to next year going to be on the TOCA package as the primary feeder to the British Touring Car Series. So our expectation is that we'll be oversubscribed next year, so it's going to be a first come first served basis, but virtually guarantee an absolutely packed grid.
It's settled then. The Mini Challenge ticks all the boxes when it comes to delivering the best kind of racing. And after this weekend, I definitely believe it deserves its promotion to the top motorsport package in the UK.
If you enjoyed that and you'd like us to take on some other racing challenges, perhaps drive some other race cars, do let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe and click on the bell icon. Now, yesterday you said something about if we get 1 million views you'd get me back in the car again. If you could just say that to the camera, that would be much appreciated.
If we can get 1 million views on the Carfection content from this weekend, we'll definitely get George back in the car again.
Heard it here first.